Hello and welcome to the OP Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, Jam, and this episode's actually going to be a little different. We actually missed last week due to travel, and unfortunately, Jeff is not going to be here in this episode because he is suffering from a horrible stomach virus. He's okay, everything's going to be fine, and he'll be back for the next episode, but we're just hoping he gets better. And I actually have a little different approach today. It's going to be me and a really good friend of mine. He's going to be the guest host for today. That is going to be Ben. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling a little tired, but doing pretty good.
Why are you tired?
Been on a long trip. 10,000-mile trip, just got back into town.
Yeah, Ben is, I've been calling him Globetrotter, but more country trotter. He's actually did, how long was it? 2 months?
Yeah, 2 months worth of driving.
He drove, all around the United States, visiting all of our friends across the country. Basically, what I dream of doing for the rest of my life. And he's just I'm just going to spend the last half of my summer driving around the country. So not a lot of playing Overwatch while you're doing that, huh?
No. I had to cave in and buy some, I had to remote into my computer and buy some of the Summer Games boxes so that I had an opportunity to have them at all, which I felt a little dirty about, but I'm doing all right with it now.
How much money did you spend?
$50. I spent $50, but I got every skin I wanted, and please don't judge me.
Well, at least you got the skins you wanted, right? It's nothing like spending $50 and getting, all dupes.
Yes.
So, Ben is going to be, Ben is a really good friend of ours. He actually does play Overwatch with us. He is Cobalt Code in a lot of our games, and I've slowly been uploading a lot of our more epic matches, some of the competitive matches that we've been doing onto our YouTube channel. So if you look up the OP Overwatch podcast on YouTube, we have some matches up there, some clips, some crazy play of the games and things like that, and I am going to get working on getting a lot more of that up there. But yeah, I'm glad Ben's here to fill in the shoes of Jeff, and yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started on this very exciting episode. But before we get to the main event of this episode, which is going to be a map breakdown, we're actually going to talk about some of the patch updates that just recently happened. It wasn't a huge one. I was actually kind of surprised because the weekend prior there was a kind of pre-patch download and it was preparing you for Tuesday, so I was all excited. Maybe we'll get some more Sombra news, maybe, some crazy brawl, and it turned out just to be a very short list. We'll go ahead and start out with the Mercy play of the game. So with the most recent update, the addition of Eichenwald and a lot of the balance changes, what we've been seeing in the previous patch was Mercy play of the games were just being given out like candy. It was crazy. It almost, at least in a lot of the matches I've been playing with, my buddy who plays Mercy was getting them all the time.
That's a good feeling, I bet.
Yeah. and here's the thing. I'm not against it. It's one of those things where I feel like a lot of the healers maybe don't get it enough. It's very easy to get a play of the game with, say, a Riptire or, a Reaper coming in with the Death Blossom. But I guess there was a lot of complaints about her getting it, every single time, basically for doing a res. And I don't know if every res is a game-changing res, but yeah, I could kind of see how maybe that wasn't, something that you wanted to have all the time.
Yeah. It's a reverse Riptire. It should get all of the play of the games.
It's a stealing play of the game. Well, so that was one of the big changes. The other one was the increased payload speed on Eichenwald. So they basically, it's a bigger advantage for the attacking team. If the payload goes a little faster, it's a little more beneficial. So I guess defense was suffering more in the Eichenwald after kind of looking at the matches that went on. Have you played Eichenwald at all?
Yes, I have. I like the map a lot. I've been enjoying a lot of the flanking positions. I love playing flanking characters, as you know, and everyone will probably find out later on. I think that it was pretty good. I felt that it was a really easy and strong point to defend, so I can understand them wanting to shift a little bit over towards attack.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's kind of weird. I feel every time I've been in Eichenwald, I've been put on defense, but I don't, at least for me, it's been extremely beneficial, but it hasn't been because of payload speed. It's been because that first choke point in Eichenwald is insane. If you're playing like a Reinhardt or a Mei, it's kind of crazy how easy it is to defend that first choke point. But apparently, once you get to the later sections of the map, it moved a little too slowly for people.
Yeah, I understand that entirely. In one of the few games that I had, I was playing with a team. We were very uncoordinated, and we pretty much got rolled to the second point. But once we hit the second point, we spawned out so well that we actually stalled out the game and won at the last point.
Oh, really? Okay. I do feel that most of the action definitely seems to happen in that first choke point and then in the throne room at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that they went with making the payload move a little faster. That'll maybe, make it so there's more action. You're not spending as much time running back on defense, and it gives attack a little more of a chance. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes. And then the other change that they added, which is kind of interesting, is they added a legend tier in competitive. So Jeff and I had mentioned the past couple episodes, there's the Season 2 new tier system, and they have, gold, silver, bronze, and then they have your platinum and your master, grandmaster. So the legend tier is actually not like in the same category of those tiers. It's actually a designation for being in the top 500 players in your region, regardless of what tier you're in. So this is actually pretty cool. I think it's Blizzard kind of creating a way for players to kind of make a name for themselves in their own region and really be like, outside of what the game places you at, this is where you are almost on a world stage. And with the things like the World Cup coming up, the Overwatch World Cup, where countries are going to go pitted against each other, I think that's a really, really cool way to kind of, make a name for yourself in the game.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree with that. I remember the developers speaking about how it used to feel when we had the old system and you were a 65 to 70 level player, and really that meant you were in the highest percentiles of the game, but it didn't feel that way. And I think that this legendary tier is them trying to acknowledge their high tier players and make those people feel special as they should feel.
Do you think you might make it into that top 500, Ben?
Generally, I don't play competitively, but this season, I might actually try to. I don't think I'll be top 500, but I'll be pretty close.
Well, actually, let's kind of go into your Overwatch background. I know Jeff and I can talk endlessly and probably have bored our listeners with our favorite characters, but who are some of, let's say, like maybe top 3 or 4 characters that you main?
Ooh. Realistically, I tend to play offense flankers. Tracer and Reaper are 2 of the characters that I play most. My favorite character in all of the game we share in common, which is Mei. She's the best character.
Mei. Oh, there's so many Mei haters out there that are just spitting at their podcast device right now.
Yes, I play a little bit in every group. I just tend to excel with characters like Tracer and Reaper.
So it's interesting. So Tracer, I know you say characters like Tracer and Reaper, which are, your attack, your more DPS in Overwatch. But it's interesting because stylistically, they're quite different from each other. Tracer is a lot more of a twitch character, being high accuracy, whereas Reaper there are people that argue that he's a lower skill character. It doesn't take as much to win with him. But like I've mentioned in the past, yeah, it takes a lot of skill, and it's a high ceiling, as Jeff says a lot, with characters like Genji or McCree, where you have to keep the reticle on them. But I feel that Reaper is very similar to even like a character like Winston, who's in a completely different class in his own, where it's not really about your Twitch abilities, but it's your ability to kind of manage your cooldowns, manage your position, really know how to get the jump on people, attack them before they attack you, and he's super effective in that way. So is like what is it about those particular characters, both Tracer and Reaper, that kind of pulled you in?
For me, Tracer was a pretty simple one. I'm a fan of teleport mechanics. I like the time travel theme. I thought that was really cool. I like to aspire to being a Twitch player. It's something that I'm not very great at, so learning to play Tracer is my gateway to that. When it comes to Reaper, I'd have to agree with you. Some people say that he's easy, and I will say that he feels very easy. But if you play Reaper long enough, you'll understand very quickly that the skill involved in Reaper has to do, like you said, with cooldowns, managing cooldowns, knowing the map, knowing when to flank, knowing how to find the health packs, but most importantly, spacing. And this is something that Reaper will teach you that other characters won't teach you. Being in the right position to land a good shotgun shot is very important. And while that feels easy, if you've played Reaper long enough, you know the spacing to put yourself so that his shotgun blasts do very minute damage. And if you know those ranges, you can play around Reaper in a way that makes him a non-factor.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I feel that he is definitely easy to die with. Reaper doesn't have a whole lot of HP. I mean, he's not a glass figure by any means. But if you're not placing those shotgun blasts right, you're completely correct. It's not going to be as effective. And there's a lot of times where if I'm not paying attention or it's late at night, I'm tired, I find myself playing Reaper. And I'll be shooting at them from like maybe 10, 15 meters away. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm not doing any damage. That's actually a common problem with a character like D.Va, who excels in damage when she's ridiculously close to an enemy, and she does garbage damage when she's far away. So it's one of those things where you're right, spacing is huge with characters like that. And although it might seem just like the easy shotgun character, there is a way to play him effectively, and there is a much easier way to play him ineffectively.
The one thing that I'm going to add before we move on is that I believe that Reaper has a very interesting dynamic, and people don't talk about him very much because he isn't, I don't think, seen as much at the pro level, though I think that's probably going to change. His damage is very good, but the thing that makes him, he's one of those champions or characters who plays very well at low level and not as well at high level. And the reason for this is that when you're playing Reaper on a general basis, your strong point is catching stragglers. Like, you want to 1v1 people, you want to be killing people who are in your flank routes, but a good team sticks together. And as a Reaper, getting into range to deal damage, good damage, and being in front of, like, the funny part is your ultimate rewards being in that situation where you're close to an entire team. But your basic kit almost punishes you for it if the team is coordinated enough to turn and shoot you in the face.
Yeah, all they have to do is put their focus on you, and that's it. You're done. You're going to start spamming that Wraith form and trying to get out of there. I agree with that. And also, his Shadow Step, while it's a great way to get to different areas, you're done if they see you doing it. It's a really, really easy way to just end a Reaper and have him wait another 10 seconds for a respawn. So, I think that's interesting. Being a flanker is like, it almost feels like it should almost be in a class of its own, because a flanker, like, the way you think and the way, your goal isn't always even to, get as many kills as possible. It's really to just pull people off your team and to distract, especially with Tracer, people off of the goal, whether it be the payload or the point. So, I think that those are really good choices for characters. I personally love playing Reaper. Tracer, of course, is amazing. It's a whole nother world when you're in the Tracer zone. But I'll always lean more towards the tanks. It's just, it's too much fun playing characters like Winston and D.Va. But that's the great thing. Depending on what you're in the mood for in the game, you can always just switch to it at that point, and it turns into almost a completely different game.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and get to the main event of this episode. The last map breakdown we did was Route 66. We broke it down in attack and defense, the different sections. And the map that we're going to do today is actually a control point map. We are going to break down Hanamura. So Hanamura is probably one of the more iconic maps in Overwatch. It is the home of the Shimada clan and our two favorite ninjas in Overwatch, Genji Shimada and Hanzo Shimada. And it has a very, very interesting lore. It's the home of both of these brothers, and it is where the epic fight between them took place way back in the day when Hanzo struck down Genji and basically killed his brother for being a piece of crap and completely inept and unable to lead the clan. So Hanzo presumably killed his brother. And there's, we'll get to it a little later, but there's a lot of Easter eggs around the map that kind of show remnants of that, remnants of events that happened in the Dragon cinematic, which is the super, super cool Blizzard animated short about Genji and Hanzo as well. But as a map in Overwatch, it is really, really interesting because it is a control point map, meaning there is a point A and a point B. You're going to be on either attack or defense, just like a payload. However, instead of managing a payload and trying to get it to a point, you're basically trying to take over a specific section, whether it be point A or point B if you're on attack, and you're going to, all of your focus on defense is to stop the opposing team from getting on the point. So really interesting, whereas with payload maps like Route 66, the game flow is very mobile. You're running around, you're almost exploring a lot more of the map. Control point maps, which I like it because of the game mode, but I'm not as crazy about it because of where it the game just kind of directs you where you have to stay. You don't explore as much. You don't get to see as much of the cool details, and we'll kind of get into some of those details in the map. But overall, Hanamura is a pretty solid map, and it makes for an interesting fight.
I agree entirely. At low-level play, it can be a little bit rolly because of how close the points are. A good wipe can lead to a very big advantage in the second point, but at high-level play, where people know where the choke points are, they're really strong defense points, and there are options on the way in. But for the most part, I think the map favors people who are very good initiators.
Yeah, and what do you mean by initiators?
People who have the ability to move in on a point quickly and safely, or people who have the ability to move their team in on a point. As a great example of this would be Lucio. I believe that the recent nerf to his speed boost has something to do with this. The fact that moving in all of your people quickly at the right moment can win you maps like this.
No, I agree with that because especially with this map, and I think most control point maps, mobility is hugely advantageous to you, and it's the ability to move quick and get past those choke points. So when we talk about choke points on Route 66 or any payload map, a choke point, if you're not familiar with the terminology, is basically an area of the map where you're trying to reach a goal and both teams kind of hit a standstill. The defense is holding back the attacking team, and it's where most of the action happens. And every single map in Overwatch has a choke point, if not multiple choke points, where this happens. And Hanamura is probably one of the most notorious choke points ever because it happens at point A at the main gate. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and break it down. Point A first. We'll talk about attack and defense and kind of our experiences with that. If you are the attacking team, you start out Hanamura in a really, really cool section of the map. You start out in a Japanese arcade. There's a lot of cool games around, a lot of references, which we'll get to later, to other Blizzard games and even referencing games outside of Blizzard. But the cool thing about this is you're in here, you're waiting for the match to start, so you're basically trapped in this multi-level arcade, and you have the option to just run around and start destroying all of the arcade machines, which Blizzard has actually mentioned, a few of the designers mentioned in the past, that this was something that they wanted to put in the game. They're like, hey, we wanted to give you guys a chance to just destroy an arcade. Like, it was a really weird suggestion, but they're like super proud of it. And I think, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I agree entirely. There's a lot of detail in there, a lot of references to old Blizzard games, but for me, I'd have to say 60% of the time, it's the immediate first thing I do, and I have a kind of a tiny love affair with what I'm going to call the turnip squid, the very cute little fluff toy that you can find throughout the game, but mainly here in the claw machine.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. I'll have to look it up. But the turnip is actually a reoccurring, almost mascot character in Overwatch. And when I say mascot character in Overwatch, I don't mean it's a mascot of Overwatch. I mean in the world of Overwatch, this is like a Hello Kitty / Pikachu. It's just this reoccurring thing that people just love, and it's a character, and you'll find it everywhere. Even outside of Hanamura. So that's pretty cool. And that's so that arcade is the starting point of Hanamura if you're on attack. And once the attack starts, you're able to get out of the arcade. The starting point on defense is on the complete opposite side of the map, which you would expect. For defense, you're going to be inside the main building of the Shimada clan. Where the epic battle between Hanzo and Genji took place, both in the past and during the Dragon's Short. And this temple is really, really far away from point A. So this is something that's going to be a reoccurring theme when you are looking at defense. On a lot of these maps, there's going to be a decent amount of walking time. It doesn't seem too bad to me, at least in my experience, but I play a lot of the more mobile characters, but it's definitely not quick to get to point A, which is a huge factor when it comes to defending, if you're dying and you have to wait for that 10-second respawn and then run all the way back to point A.
Yeah, I agree entirely, but the way that this is designed is actually rather ingenious, and I don't know if people talk about this enough. But towards the start of the game, it favors the attackers, which is great because it keeps the game progression flowing. But as you move towards the second defense point, people are spawning more often, and it makes it a lot easier to defend. And this flow is very, very important. But a great example of characters who fit into certain situations, like as an example, Symmetra here. Symmetra is a great first point pick. Maybe not a second point pick, but realistically, having her teleporter to close that gap can mean the difference between holding point A.
And you're talking on defense for Symmetra.
Yes, correct.
Yes, and that's actually huge because I think one of the big reasons Symmetra is picked is, for what you mentioned, is because of her teleporter. Being able to eliminate that travel time to get back and defend the point is huge. It's really, really important. And Hanamura specifically has a lot of great areas that are kind of flanking areas and small rooms to the side for Symmetra to hide her teleporter. So let's go ahead and talk about the first section of Hanamura. You're walking out of the arcade, and all of a sudden you're in this really cool, really traditional-looking Japanese street, or streets. And you walk out of the arcade, you could look up, it's the 16-bit Hero arcade. The logo is almost an 8 or 16-bit sprite of Raynor from StarCraft. So that's a really cool reference to another Blizzard game. And then you're out in the street, and right off the bat, you look ahead of you, and then there's the Rikamaru ramen shop, which if you look up and look at the mascot for that right there is the Murloc from World of Warcraft. And it's just, there's a really cool Easter egg where if you shoot it, and everybody does it, if you shoot it a few times, it'll start making crazy sounds and
Murgle-lurgle.
I'm not a World of Warcraft player, but apparently that's endearing or annoying depending on your take on that character. But anyways, you're running through these streets, and it's really cool because you actually have a couple options. You can either go straight, which I'd say 99% of people do, and go straight down the main street to the Shimada clan gate. It's a giant wooden gate, very, very Japanese, very traditional looking, and this is our first choke point. This is where the defense is going to most effectively be able to hold the attacking team, because the only way to get to point A is through this gate or through a little window on the top left of the gate. If you're the attacking team, it's on the top left. There's no other way around it. You can jump over with certain characters, but for the most part, if you are going to be coming to point A, the defending team is going to see you come through here, which is why it's a choke point, because it's very, very difficult to get through without being seen, and it keeps you confined into this small space.
That's exactly true. On the way towards this choke point, there are a lot of very small pathways. Like, This whole map has a theme of having 3 routes throughout. There's usually a left, a right, and center route. And generally speaking, the left and right routes are underutilized, along with the walkway at the top center on the way out. Both the left and right flanks allow you to move onto this walkway, which gives certain characters like Mei and Tracer access through the hole in the top left that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing about this section of the map in general, the streets, I really, really like them, but unfortunately, for someone like me who really enjoys like intricate level design and cool areas to flank, I feel like if you're not in the main street of this map, it's pretty underutilized in general by the game because as a defensive team, what I've seen is that it's a lot more effective to hold this choke point and to hold point A if you kind of keep your defensive team almost entirely inside of the gate. So what you end up happening, and you can overextend, you can go out and go on the second level above the ramen shop, you go maybe into some of the streets, side streets where the health packs are, and it can make for interesting fights, but it's such a disadvantage to be killed on defense in this area where you have to run all the way back to point A, that if you don't keep your team together and in a very tight-knit, strong wall to hold them back at the gate, then it's a huge risk. And it can be done, don't get me wrong. There's so many different ways you can defend. But in most cases, I feel that if you go a little too far past the gate and you get killed, all you're doing is dwindling your defenses.
Yeah, I agree entirely. The truth about that is that once you're down a player in that situation, this map favoring people who are mobile, who push in really fast, fighting that fight where you're 4v6 or 5v6 will lead to a loss fairly quickly, especially with the travel back to point A.
Yeah.
And I have to say that there's a lot of interesting stuff. I think there was a recent play that made waves where a Mei ice-walled her way in through the first gate. You can find it, I'm sure.
Yeah, you can actually. So when we were talking about that top left, that's the area you're talking about, right? That top left window. When you're on attack, you can go through the main gate, and that's usually where the fight happens. That's a choke point. And then there's that top left window where characters like Winston, Genji, Hanzo, anybody who's super mobile, anybody who could easily reach a second level can get through. And if you actually can get up to that window with Mei. Now, if you're not super familiar or if you haven't tried yet, you might think, oh, okay, you just walk up to it, put a wall up, and get in. That's actually can't be done. The wall, and I almost feel like it was on purpose, the wall is actually just short of Mei being able to jump into that window. So normally that would kind of force you to travel through the main gate with her. However, if you go off all the way to the left and into the side streets where kind of that health pack is, there is a stairwell that'll lead up to the second level, and it'll stop kind of right in front of that top window area. You can put a ice wall below yourself on that ledge, bring it up, and it'll bring you just the perfect distance for you to jump into the window with Mei. Whether or not this is something that is recommended, it's definitely time consuming, and if you're on the defensive team, you're watching that window if you're doing your job. It could be one of those things where she walks in and somebody immediately jumps on her. However, Mei, as I've mentioned before, is almost like a pseudo tank, so she can get up there and kind of hold her own, and if anything, start dropping walls in front of the defensive team. In areas that she might not have been able to reach as easily from outside the gate. So there's some options there. So if you're a Mei player and you want to try that, I definitely recommend getting out there and kind of experimenting with that, because it's something that it's definitely not sneaky. I mean, everybody could see the wall, but it makes for an interesting strategy.
Yeah, I agree. The wall that I was talking about in particular was done from above on the second level in the Rikimaru ramen shop.
Oh, really? Okay, I haven't seen that one yet.
It was laid perpendicular to the wall of the Rikimaru shop, and all it did was allow the people to run through the center main gate, but it gave them high ground while they did it.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm definitely going to try that because, yeah, you're pretty much on the ground the entire time when you're trying to get through that gate. So, now granted, it's very obvious and it makes a single file line. However, if it's something that you can catch the defensive team, That's a really interesting, and that's what I love about this game, and the myriad of abilities that are in it is that all you have to do is give players enough time, and they'll come up with crazy strategies that might just work. All you have to do is catch them by surprise once and get that point. So speaking of the point, let's go ahead and move past that main gate. So you have your Japanese streets, the ramen shop, you have the arcade. Sometimes fights happen there, but they usually happen at the choke point. Now, as the attacking team, let's say you push past the gate. What do we have past the gate? Well, we have a few things. Directly in front of us is the main shrine area with the giant bell that everybody knows, and that's at the center of point A. This is the area that, as the attacking team, you are trying to capture. In order to capture the point, you got to get your people on the point. You got to get all of the defenders off the point. A bar starts filling up. Once you fill it up entirely, boom, you've captured point A. Now it's time to capture point B. It sounds simpler than it actually is, though, especially if you have a really good defensive team, because once you get in this area, there are multiple positions, both first level and second level elevation, that a defending team can easily start pelting attacks at you from defense without having to stay grouped together. And this is hugely advantageous for the defensive team if they are set up.
Yes, Torbjorns are great here. A few other characters are great here. Mobile snipers are great here. It may have been mentioned that this is the Shimada home turf, but I believe that Blizzard intentionally designed this map to be great for the Shimadas.
Oh yeah, you can wall climb almost anywhere in the map with either Genji or Hanzo, and it's literally made for them, which I'm sure was on purpose.
Yeah, and basically, once you're inside this area, you have the center path, which leads through a Zen garden. You have a left path, which is great for flankers, has a lot of cover position, is really good for anyone who likes to fight up close. And then you have a rightmost path. This path has a small room that leads up to the second level that is adjacent to point A. And this room is infamously known to be a great spot for Symmetra's turrets.
Yes, absolutely. So that room that you go into right when you enter the gate, it's immediately to the right. There's a health pack in there, so for the attacking team, it's generally there's not a whole lot of cover once you get past the gate. So you want to, it's a big open Zen garden, like you said, and if you're attacking and if you have Torbjorn turrets, if you have a Widowmaker, whatever the defensive team is, you want to get cover in quick. So your natural instinct, especially since it's closer than the path to the left, is to jump right into that room, which is a great idea if Symmetra's not in there. Because great Symmetra, and there actually is a video. Check it out on our YouTube channel. If it's not up there, I'll make sure to get up there as soon as possible. Symmetra can basically put all of her turrets in that room, and the second they walk into the room, it is the death room. She's in there. She can compound her attacks on top of all of her turrets. There's a health pack behind her, so even if she starts getting killed, all she has to do is run backwards while holding that fire, hit the health pack, take it away from the person attacking. I have seen a lot of attacking teams die just in this room.
Indeed. As a matter of fact, but on the other side of that coin, if there isn't a Symmetra, this place can be a decent choke point, given that your defending team is not using zone-based characters like Junkrat, or people who do area damage who can lob in that damage at range. But other than that, it's actually a really good staging ground for a push. It's just generally hard to get in there.
Exactly. And it's great staging ground for a push, not only on the first level, but there is a staircase that will bring you up to the second level and almost a catwalk area, which gives you great vantage point over point A. You can kind of pop some shots in there, either with a Pharah, Junkrat, even a sniper, and start trying to take out people that are defending point A, and they're actually on the point itself. So, yeah, this area is very, very useful for both attack and defense, and it's going to be an area of contention for both attack and defense. But in most of the matches I've seen, that's usually not the path a lot of the teams go. Some people just go full balls to the wall, straight down the middle, a Roadhog, a Reinhardt, you have your shield up. And that's not bad either. If you want to turtle it through and keep your defense up, it's completely possible, as long as your flankers are doing their job on the attack side, trying to pull people off you. You have your Pharahs out there taking out turrets, things like that. You can go straight down the middle through the Zen Garden, but it might be the quickest way, but it's not always the safest way. So keep an eye out on that room to the right. If it's safe, if you can kind of go in through there, you can sneak your guys in there. If we look to the left side of the gate, when you're attacking, there is a excellent flank point. Going to the left, it immediately goes up some stairs. There's a building to the left. You can go either up the stairs to that second building, get some cover in there. There's a health pack. There's a couple rooms where you can get the jump on people, both on attack and defense. And then there's also another path. If you go straight up the stairs, don't go into that building on your left, but just go all the way back to the edge of the map. And there's another flanking path, this really cool kind of walkway that leads around the building. And both of these paths will lead to the left side, if you're attacking, of point A. And they're a great way to kind of either sneak in if your defending team is not paying attention. You could sneak in with maybe a tracer, somebody very mobile. Or if you're like a tank that's mobile, like Winston or Diva, you can jump in there and immediately start trying to harass and capture the point, sometimes uncontested, from that left flank as well.
Yes, it's a very good point to take. If you're Reaper, this is one of the places that you're looking to be. It puts you into the bell room, which I'm going to call point A. And that room is very good for short-range fighting, but it's also a very good place to stage a defense. You'll often find Torbjorn turrets in there. But most importantly, the point that we should make is that making it around this flank path, if you make it in past the defenses, and you can put yourself on the point, it is a great way to just sit on the point. If it's unprotected by something like a Torbjorn turret, or you can destroy that turret, that will pull the wall away from the gates because they have to respond to you. And this is a great way to get your team into the point.
And guys, this is a great point that Ben makes, because it is regardless of what map it is, that is a control point. So whether it's Hanamura, whether you're playing Temple of Anubis, a lot of people get caught up in that choke point. It's funny. Like, I almost see that psychological fear of moving past. It's funny because Temple of Anubis has that gate too, where people get stuck on that gate because there's a Bastion behind there, there's a Reinhardt blocking him, things like that, and you almost naturally don't want to push past the gate, even when you don't see people there. But one of the best ways to get people to break down their defenses is just get one player. Sometimes all it takes is one, either a Tracer or Winston, somebody who can get over there fast and just jump over or blink past their entire defensive line. Get on the point. A well-put-together team will usually have their flankers, their people that can, take on a single player. Just send them over to deal with whoever's taking the point. However, in a lot of cases, people will start panicking. They're going to see, our point's being taken. We're all here. And all of a sudden, everybody will turn around. And that is the best thing, because as a Tracer, if you can get on the point and get the entire defensive team to turn around and focus on you, now their backs are turned to the other 5 members of your team who are lobbing everything they've got. And by the time they make it to you, they have very little health, and all you have to do is either recall, blink out of there, and you have effectively destroyed their wall without actually having to attack them. You just use basically psychological methods of taking their point to pull them back. So this is a great way. So I would say for not only Hanamura, but any control point map, a great way is not to just focus on trying to take down the players one at a time or wait for an ult. Just get on point A. Find somebody who could just get on there and be able to start taking the point, because that right there will break a lot of teams down. On the flip side, if you're on defense, you want somebody, usually like a Torbjorn, I'd say, but you at least want 1 or 2 people defending the point, waiting for these mobile flankers, because A lot of the times, a Torbjorn can just take out whoever's there by himself, and you don't have to worry about breaking down your Reinhardt wall. Your Bastion doesn't have to run back and try to defend the point. So there's multiple ways of going about it. There isn't any one right or wrong way, but it's just being aware of these strategies, because I love, especially as Winston, because he can soak up a lot of the damage, and he could put a shield down, just jumping on point A. Oh, you guys got a wall up? Jump right over all of them. Get around the corner, get some cover, drop a shield down, start capturing it, and just wait for them to show up. And hopefully my team will come and support me when the time comes and won't just stay there petrified behind the choke point.
Yes, and mobile tanks are a great pick on Hanamura. Especially, I would agree, Winston is very good. Very often you'll see that at this first point, at the gate, you'll find Reinhardt's sit very well because his big blue square covers up that doorway almost entirely.
Oh, it's amazing.
Winston is a good pick there, especially as a breaching tank. I believe that he's an underappreciated pick. I'm pretty sure you have a personal story about that.
Oh, yeah. I've been a couple times, well, one time in particular, I was basically harassed by a team member, just a random person that got paired up, where I picked Winston, and they were basically asking me why I would ever do that on Hanamura defense. He's not a good pick. I don't know why you'd pick him. He would it's better to pick a Reinhardt. And in some cases, depending on the team comp, that might be true. But in this particular instance, every single flanker that tried to get on the point never got past me. I believe I had a Mercy supporting as well. So it's one of those things. Jeff and I have mentioned it in the past. Don't be too quick to judge and say something's impossible, because honestly, it really just depends on it depends on multiple factors. It's player skill, it's your strategy, and it's your team's ability to support you through it. So Winston, for me, he's almost a must pick for Hanamura. On defense anyways. I love him on defense. And when we get to point B, I'm going to rant and rave about it for sure. And speaking of point B, let's go ahead and move on to that. So point A, excellent source of action. There's a great opportunities for both defense and offense. Defense is at a huge disadvantage once you start dying, so that's why I think Symmetra is a really, really big pick in this particular map. Once the attacking team captures point A, now we're going to move to point B, and everything changes at point B. Point B is, it could be either one of the most efficient games you'll ever play, or it can be a complete shit show.
Yeah, I have to say that a common factor is the Hanamura gap. This is very important. Generally speaking, after a good team wipe at point A, you'll find that a lot of people try to make it over from point A, the left side, across to the left side of point B. It's an all right point. It's an all right path to take. It's not always the best path, but if you do it fast enough, you can get yourself a very big advantage in point B.
Yeah, point B is really one of the most difficult, I think, one of the most difficult points to take if you're on the attacking side of Hanamura. It is an amazing section of this map. It's actually, I think, one of my favorite sections of the map if I'm playing defense in the game. So, like Ben said, if you're on the attacking side, a great way to get to point B quickly, rather than, so you're walking out the gate now towards point B, running away from point A, you're running through this beautiful garden. The game is gorgeous. I mean, the graphics are colorful. There's all these cherry blossoms. It's so Japanese, and it is awesome. And so there you see the shrines, and you can either go straight to point B through the main entrance, which a lot of people do, and then there's a few flanking areas. In fact, Hanamura point B has so many ways in, it's bonkers. It's ridiculous. You can literally, there's no way to defend every single entrance to point B at the same time with a 6-person comp. So that's what makes it interesting, because if you're defending point B, it's very possible, and it's happened to me, especially if you lose point A very quickly, if the team basically bowls over, now you're on point B. A lot of the times, if you're destroyed at point A, a lot of people, their team morale goes down. they're like, okay, this team bowled over us. I'm on a crappy team, whatever. But for me, even if you lose point A immediately, I'm like, all right, we have 8 minutes to protect point B. Let's do this. And you start building up your defenses. And I can't even count the amount of matches where we've won on defense in Hanamura point B inside the Shimada Temple that was just like 8 minutes of pure carnage. But it was amazing.
Yes. The point B is a very strong defensive quagmire. Spawn points at a good place. You can come out. There's a 2-level system. There's great places to put Torbjorn turrets. Defensive heroes are very good here. Snipers are good here. A lot of characters are actually very good in that. But as you were saying earlier, there are a great many entry points for this. You have the left side through the Hanamura Gap. You have the center, which has a main door. It also has 2 entryways to the second level on the front of the building. And there is a walkway to the right that also takes you into the building through a top level, which has stairs that walk right to the spawn point.
Yeah, this section of the map is one of those very rare sections in Overwatch where it's actually a triple level point. So you have your first floor. Actually, it might be quadruple level because there's a lower level. So you have your main floor, which is where the actual point takes place, and this is the temple that Genji and Hanzo had their fight. So that's where point B is. And then there's a lower level below that, which actually goes under a bridge, which is the bridge you cross over if you're going the center path. The lower level's not a large area, but it's a great way to actually get some cover and maybe sneak in if you're the attacking team without anybody seeing you. And then there is a second level. This second level really only exists in the front of the building. So there's 2 windows to get in on the right and left side of the building. And you can go in through those sides as the attacking team. But as the defending team, if you wanted to, you could put somebody who's just basically running back and forth and defending those windows. And you can defend those windows easily from the main floor of the shrine as well. Then beyond that, there's actually a third level. This is the level Ben was talking about where if you're attacking, you come in through the right side through this walkway. Once you enter the building, you can either go left on the second level or you can go straight up another set of stairs, and it puts you on the third level, which honestly for defense is one of my favorite sections. This is a place that you're usually going to find people dropping a Torbjorn turret. You might have a Widowmaker up there, some snipers, a Pharah, somebody who's good at long range, even a Bastion. I mean, a Bastion on that third level is great because the only way that you're going to be able to get the jump on them is if you go through that staircase as well. So it's a point of contention, I feel, for both attack and defense. And that's just inside the room. The Hanamura Gap, which Ben mentioned, if you're attacking, it's on the left side. It's basically you're leaving point A, you're kind of hanging to the left as much as you can, and then there's a giant gap that leads to the balcony of the Shimada building. So this gap is interesting because most characters can get over it from point A to point B, but it's a lot easier for some characters than others, and it's a great way to flank from the left side on point B if you're on attack.
Yes, it is also the fastest way to point B, but it only gives access to 2 entry points into the temple. And this is important mainly because this is a very common route that people take. If you're taking point A, a lot of times once the team is down, someone will leave and immediately go to point B. It's a very decent strategy in some ways. Sometimes it can be bad. Sometimes people funnel through it a little bit too often and they get caught up in it. But the one thing I'll say about point B is that it, unlike most other control points, encourages the enemy team to not only flank, but to split up. And I think this is what gives the defensive team such an advantage, is because if you're walking through one doorway, all of the points on the inside of point B are very good. There's a lot of high ground. There's good cover. If everyone is balled up together, like, your ability to focus force to a point or one of those entryways is very, very strong. So it encourages the teams to split up and attack from several directions at the same time, and this is what makes it such a great defensive point. Generally speaking, you're not ever facing the death ball unless people gain enough ground to move in towards the center.
Yeah, absolutely. And also a really good defensive team, if you're experienced enough at the game, if you're defending the Hanamura Gap balcony area as on your right side, they're going to know to watch that area. And the thing about it is, sure, it's a great flanking area, but your more experienced players, they're going to be watching it. It's not a surefire way to go. And most people will try to go through that hallway right onto the point. And if your defensive team is good, they'll have at least a couple people already looking out to that. If not, the person on the top floor, all the way on the other side of the building, a sniper, a Farah, kind of keeping that area secure as well. So it's a great way. Like Ben said, it's one of the quickest ways to get to point B. However, it's not a surefire win. What's great about it, though, is if you don't want to go through the far hallway on attack after the Hanamura grab, there is a way to get to that third level, which is kind of in the front of the building. It's going to be obvious. If you're on defense, you're going to be able to see people coming through there. But it's just a way to kind of mix it up. The interesting thing about playing attack on point B of Hanamura is that there's so many ways for you to enter. And while they're not all surefire ways to win and they're easily defendable, if your team does split up, it does kind of create some chaos. So this is an interesting point because the thing about point B is that the defensive team, I feel, is most effective if they're split up. That way, there's no one that's going to come in with an ult and just absolutely wipe the entire team like happens on so many maps in Overwatch. You can defend if an ult happens, maybe one or two people die, and then the other remaining team, whether they're posted up, posted down, posted in the back, maybe running around as a flanker, are able to take care of it. This is what makes this point so hard to take. However, if you're on the attacking team, the defensive team has to worry about where you're going to come into. Because if you're in the very center of point B looking outward, you have the door straight in front of you. You have the bottom floor to the left, which is not even visible if you're on the main floor, which I think was made that way on purpose. You have the flanking from the right, from the Hanamura Gap. You have the two doors on the third floor, straight in front of the building, which you can be entered through the Hanamura Gap on the right side for defense, or through the walkway on the left for defense. And then you also have the top floor all the way on the left if you're on defense, where people put Torbjorn turrets or a bastion. Very great area, but it can be easily flanked by the attacking team as well.
Yes, and this is probably where your level of expertise comes in. This whole situation is a great, great place for Winston, especially when it comes to countering people who are set up on those high floors like snipers. He makes a great pick here.
Yeah, absolutely. I have had so many good Winston matches defending, having him be the main tank on Hanamura point B. Because what I'll generally do is I'll try to stay centered. Not necessarily right in the main doorway if that's where everybody's kind of congregating on the attack side, because then they all just have free pot shots. So you want to kind of be mobile, but it's funny. I actually was talking with Jeff about this in the past, and it's interesting. The first time you play Overwatch, you're getting familiar with the maps. You're not sure what hallways go where. You're just kind of, what's this do? Oh yeah, that's right. This is the way to this room and all that. And every map was like that for me when I first played, and for anybody who played the first time. However, I've played so much Winston on point B defense of Hanamura, I'm almost like in disbelief that I ever didn't know that map. It is so familiar. Like when I close my eyes, I see it in my dreams. Hanamura, point B, the Shimada building with Winston. I am super aware of who's coming in what door, what areas to defend, and if the second somebody gets on the point or even is looking at the point, I know where they are. And this is one of those excellent opportunities, especially if you're somebody who can soak up the damage, can see where everything's happening, because the best way to see where the attackers are coming from is being in the dead center. It's dangerous. You're going to get hit if you're there. That's why it's great for a tank like Winston or Diva to kind of stay there and start calling out. Reaper on the top left. We have a Genji coming in on the right by the Hanamura gap. We have a Roadhog coming in on the bottom left level through, the stairs where the health pack is on the side. There's all sorts of areas for people to come in, and this is where communication is going to be extremely important. And a character like Winston or Diva, who are super mobile, who can quickly reach any level of Hanamura, like almost instantly, is going to be a huge, huge advantage for the defensive team. If not for just being a tank in your normal tank duties, at least for communication in your team and letting you know where everybody is. Because then your flankers, your defensive characters, they can immediately start focusing and you could start utilizing your ability. So this is a great, great area on defense to start really working out your communication chops and really getting out there and getting that synergy together with your team.
I agree, and I love that you brought up Diva. On the flip side of that coin, I believe she's actually really good as an offensive pick for this stage as well. She's good for sieging, pushing past points. She's good for countering Torbjorn turrets, which are all over.
Oh, yeah. And her ult, too.
Yeah, her ult is very good when it comes to control points. Like, you can pop her ult, it gives you that 3-second window where everyone wants to run away from you. They want to get off the point. It destroys turrets and emplacements. It's very, very good for a stage like this.
And even if, we mentioned before with Diva, even if you don't kill everybody with her ult, it at least gets them off the point. It gives your team a chance to push the point, maybe just, like you said, destroy some turrets that are around the point that are in clear sight of her ult. And right away, if you're doing well with Diva, you get some cover, bam, you're back in the mech. Now you are a fully operational, full health tank on the point, and your team's moving in, maybe Lucio speed pushes. So yeah, on attack, while it is difficult to take this point, if the defensive team is good, it's not impossible. And it might take you the full 8 minutes if you get bowled over immediately in the beginning and you're spending the majority of the match here. Both teams have great opportunities. All you really have to do is wait for somebody to slip up and not do their job. It's a high-pressure situation. Characters like Diva or Junkrat who have ultimates that can take out people in mass quantities in a short range. The thing about this is you can post up as much as you want, but if you're not on the point on defense and somebody's taking the point, you need somebody to get on the point. So while it's great to have your snipers and your turrets and everything all around and flankers running around, I feel like a lot of the times defensively you're effective if you're running around and you're not even on the point. But the second somebody gets on the point, everything changes and you need to get that person off. If it's just a Tracer or a Reaper, maybe you could just have somebody take them out. But if the whole team pushes, that's where the fight's happening. And this is where the blizzards happen, the Diva ults happen, there's rip tires, Lucio's breaking it down. I mean, if you're talking about chaos in the game of Overwatch, Hanamura Point B is where it happens. It's so much fun.
Yes, this is where AoE is fantastic. It's a great way to clear out or, like as you mentioned earlier, it's been made really good for Mei. The boost to her Blizzard range basically means that her Blizzard covers most control points entirely. And once you get in, if you don't have a really good defensive attacker, like as an example, a Zarya or a Roadhog or someone who can sit on the point to defend that point and actually deal the damage, this is a spot where generally snipers come down, they fall. Maybe someone like a Bastion can stay where he is and fire into it, but people like Torbjorn and others will have to move to the point to defend it.
Definitely. Well, they should. They don't always. And that's enraging when you're on defense and your sniper does not get on the point, but I've mentioned that enough. So, yeah, this is a great section of the map, guys, to really, really test out not only your communication, but your awareness. You're looking at 4 different levels of the map. There's also, if you're on defense, looking out the door. On the very, very top right, there's actually a balcony that the only way to get up there, there's no door, the only way to get up there is to have a character like Winston, Diva, Widowmaker, who's mobile enough to get to this top floor. Nobody ever looks up there, but you can snipe from there and shoot from there as well. Not a whole lot of cover, but be aware of this area because some people will sneak up there. Also, right above in the center area of point B, there's the scroll and the giant painting of the dragons. In the very, very center, you can get up there, weirdly enough, easily with Hanzo, and you can start sniping people defensively or offensively if you could sneak up there as well. So there's a lot of areas to really catch people by surprise.
And I'll leave off with this one little tip. If you have the ultimate and you are a Reaper, if you can put yourself in line of sight of the archway above the point, it can be very nice to put yourself up there. Generally speaking, only snipers will see you, but if you have a Death Blossom and you can force the point, dropping down with Death Blossom from this spot is very, very effective.
Oh, yeah. It'll just ruin the defensive team's day, or the attacking team, depending on how you're approaching. So, yeah, guys, this is an excellent, excellent section of the map. It has so many opportunities. And there's literally, it feels infinite amount of strategies that you can approach this with. The addition of Ana changed it completely on defense. Now you can have Ana maybe on a higher level or more centered, and she could start healing all of the defenders from, multiple points on the map. On point B. So there's a lot of strategies you can go with. If you guys have anything that maybe we didn't mention as far as strategies on Hanamura, whether it be point A or point B, feel free to contact either me or Jeff at HappyJamOP or at TruthEaterOP on Twitter, and let us know what you guys think, because it is... I feel like that this map hasn't been completely utilized as far as what you can do on it. There's just so many opportunities. So before we wrap it up, I just want to kind of mention a few other Easter eggs that exist in Hanamura. Most of them, honestly, are in the arcade, which is pretty cool. Like we said earlier, you can destroy the arcade games. There is a claw game or a crane game, a bunch of them that can be destroyed throughout the arcade. They have those turnips that Ben was mentioning before. There's all sorts of games, just to list off a couple of them. There's Fighters of the Storm, which is obviously a reference to Heroes of the Storm, another Blizzard game, but it's set up like a 2D fighting game, kind of like Street Fighter, and it has some Blizzard characters on there as well. There's also a Lost Vikings game, which is hilarious because that's literally the name of another game, The Lost Vikings. However, it's more of a Gradius-style game, and the ship that's in it is actually a Viking from StarCraft as well. Super Siege Mode 3, this is an obvious reference to the Metal Slug games of the past, but it has a little bit of a StarCraft theme as well. Raynor and Sergeant Hammer are the characters on there. There's just so many cool things. Definitely check out some of these games. If you're a Blizzard fan, they're awesome references, and even if you're not a Blizzard fan, there are obviously references to other games as well.
They're very gratifying to destroy, on another note.
Yeah. Try to get a look at them before your team completely destroys every machine in the arcade, because it'll be tough. Going back to point B, which is the main Shimada building, there's a lot of cool references. Like we mentioned before, there is a giant mural of a green and blue dragon fighting each other. Obviously symbolism of Genji and Hanzo fighting each other. There's also references to the Dragons short. If you haven't seen it, what the hell are you doing? Go back and watch it. It's awesome. It's two ninjas fighting each other in an amazing Blizzard short. And there's references to that. You could see some of the shurikens that Genji throws at Hanzo. You could see arrows around with that on the exact spots that Hanzo attacked Genji in the short as well. And there's also the scroll hanging in the very center. There is a bloody slice through it, and a katana, which is presumably the katana that Hanzo used to defeat Genji, to quote-unquote kill Genji. So that's kind of like him paying respects to his brother. That's what he was kneeling before in the Dragon short. Interestingly enough, apparently it's rumored that Hanzo is a better sword fighter than Genji, and that is the sword that he used. And after he murdered his brother, he basically swore off ever using a sword again. So that'd be kind of interesting. If Hanzo's better than Genji, I mean, Genji's pretty damn good with a katana.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that this also alludes to something that isn't discussed very often, which is that initially in the concepts for the character, Genji and Hanzo were the same character, as in he was a cyborg with a bow and arrow and a sword.
Yeah, actually, so Jeff and I had mentioned that in one of the earlier either Hanzo or Genji episodes. And what's funny about that is that the designers decided he was just too badass. He was too good. You can't have a guy that has both a bow and a sword. So they came up with the idea, why don't we split it into two characters? We'll make them brothers, create this awesome storyline that now we know about Hanzo and Genji. So a lot of excellent lore. Super, super colorful level. Traditional Japanese, both in the city streets that you run through Hanamura, also in the temple, the Point A Bell. I mean, it's a great map to just explore. If you get a chance to just jump in a custom game and explore it, I mean, it really is amazing. And there's a lot of little details that you can miss when you're actually in a fight. So definitely take some time to explore the map. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Once again, we're sad that Jeff couldn't be here. I hope he gets better soon. But I'm really glad. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining in and co-hosting on this, being our first guest host.
Thank you very much. I had a great time.
You did an awesome job, man. And yeah, if you guys, like I said, if you guys have any strategies in Hanamura that you'd like to mention, maybe anything we missed, something that's one of your favorite sections or areas of the map, certain strategies that you haven't seen often that maybe you came up with or you saw someone do, feel free to contact us. You can email me directly at happyjamop@gmail.com. You can also reach me or Jeff. I am at happyjamop, and Jeff is at truthitorop on Twitter. We also have a Facebook page. Definitely visit us on that. Check that out. We put our most recent episodes of the podcast on there, any news. And also, of course, our main website, oppodcast.com. Check that out as well. So many ways you could reach us. Let us know what you guys think. And as always, thank you so much for listening. We really, really appreciate your guys' feedback. And thank you for being patient with us with all the travel and the sicknesses that have been happening lately. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.